and I just don't have the time.
Yep.
But I get through it somehow. I get
Call
through
of Duty coming out
I'm not
with
interested
the
in
new
that.
zombies.
No, it's okay.
New zombie story. Whoa.
Wow. Hello and welcome. My name's J.E. and with me today is my good old friend, Alexander Gonzalez.
Wow. Hello.
And please remember that we are not game devs. How you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing all right. I, for some reason in my head, thought that all consoles released on the same day. I knew, but maybe was in denial that the Xbox released today and that I was going to have to wait 2 days while people played next gen. And I'm jealous. How are you doing, Jay?
I'm worried about next gen that I'm not going to get one, but we'll find out tomorrow, I guess.
Listeners, raise your hands and give energy to Jay like the spirit bomb. Will it help? No, because you're probably listening to this on Friday.
But those are not the next gen games that we are talking about today. Today, we are creating something new. Every week, We Are Not Game Devs will create a new, exciting video game idea that we have always wanted to play, but do not have any knowledge or know-how to create the wonderful world or experience. I don't know where world came from. That are video games.
Welcome to the wonderful world of video games.
Today it's my turn to present We Are Not Game Devs 129th IP. Speaking of next gen, what we're going to do is create the AAA linear action adventure game with full-on cutscenes, voice acting, and all the works, but completely using PS2 era polygon graphics.
Why?
Why not? Because there's so many modern games coming out. Like let's take Shovel Knight for example. Going back to that.
Do you? Sorry to interrupt, but do you think here now, Shovel Knight looks cool because 8-bit and 16-bit look cool?
Yeah.
It's like retro.
Yeah.
Do you think polygons look cool?
No, but they bring back. I saw a cutscene, I think it was from like Final Fantasy VII or something, and I was watching it, and I was like, man, you just don't see this anymore. Like, this is just not something you could just see, you know? Like, you have to like look for this.
Yeah.
My idea is we take that and then make it like build a game around that and also used modern technology to change it a little bit, kind of like Octopath Traveler did with it. Not polygonal, but with the 32 or 16-bit or whatever you want to call it, and then making it have like real-time lighting effects. You know what I mean? Like make a polygonal game
with ray tracing,
with ray tracing, and like the arms and stuff don't clip within each other. You know, we could like play around with that a little bit. Because you know how in the old games, when you scratch the back of your head, like for example, his whole arm clips into himself because they're just gigantic hexagons. Like we can make him thinner.
Or they can make really natural looking polygonal hair because it never clips. Like, but because it's polygons, it already has edges, so it's easy to sculpt.
But like I can imagine we could even like make the polygons skinnier and smaller and like shape them a little bit different, but have it look like an old game. But when you look closely, be like, oh, they couldn't make a circle like that, you know, like we could bend the rules a little bit.
I see. What I think about is that it's a next generation game and it's polygonal, so you can exploit the power and do things like create a bunch of models on screen. You can do things like have dozens and dozens and dozens of polygonal bats, or have it like there's, you know, stuff like that, swarms of things or a lot of things going on at once on a screen, whether that be weather or what have you. I think that's where you'd have the advantage, is maybe painting a really cool picture of what's going on or making a great battlefield. But it's an action adventure game. So maybe whenever I think about that, I think of like Uncharted, Tomb Raider.
I was thinking more in the veins of those style of games because I do want this to feel something like those old school games never did, where it feels the storytelling feels more cinematic, where we're telling a story. You know what I mean? Like there's a linear path that you kind of follow and do this whole thing. And I imagine the length of this kind of being like Uncharted: The Lost Legacy style, where it's like a shorter experience and you just go through from level to level to level, but it's just telling this continuous like cinematic story. It's cutscenes built into it where you like walk from one corridor straight into a cutscene and you don't really realize that you've just started a cutscene.
Man. Okay. So we've got that down. The best polygonal weapon has to be like a sword, right?
Yeah, I also
Has to be
see
like
this
a
kind of like more high fantasy or maybe like more medieval or something like that.
yeah, swords just look great being pointy. I could even accept daggers or something of that nature. Okay. Hmm.
We could go like Final
Do
Fantasy
you
with
want to go
this. Yeah, and
magic?
go magic is exactly the thing I was talking
Because
about.
then you start getting into cool ass effects that you can do
Yeah, maybe what
with
it.
lighting.
Let's just put more context because we're not the story people, so we're not creating what the story's about. We're just creating the game mechanics around it. So what if to flavor it a little bit, maybe each of your party, so that it's going to be, I guess now it's going to be more of like I kind of see it as like Final Fantasy 15, where you have 4 core players and you could switch freely between the 4 of them, and the camera will kind of like zoom to each one, like Final Fantasy 7 remake or GTA 5 style, where it like one dude's fighting over here with his sword, and this other you hold L2 and press up on the D-pad, and you'll switch to this other character that's over here. You know what I mean? And each character, to flavor it, is like a controller of their own element, right? And so the main character is like fire, and then his bodyguard or something is like ice or
I
something.
I like all of that. Now I want this game. We're doing action adventure. It's going to be open world. Let's have, instead of random encounters, because we're messing with polygons, let's do it like Pokemon Go Let's Go did, where all of the enemies are on the field and they're all doing their own effects. They're all fighting however
Oh
they
yeah,
want to.
I don't see the game ever just stopping like Final Fantasy,
Yeah.
and then like 4
'Cause we
people
have the
lined up
power,
here.
you know?
Yeah, like I don't want it to be like turn based at all, or be like Pokemon where you're just walking around and all of a sudden you go dun 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 dun. Like I don't want that stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
and then the character slowly
yeah.
slides in.
I want it to all be like real time, like near automata type of like. It's seamless, like cutscenes. Even like back in the day, they had to make cutscenes like a pre-rendered thing that everything stops and you could drastically tell the difference between gameplay and cutscene, and it just stops, right? I want all the cutscenes to be these polygons moving around, talking, and taking it super seriously. But you're just looking at these squares and diamonds and shit. Like it's all going to be super seamless, like the Uncharted games. But the fighting is going to feel kind of more like a combo based action RPG, like a Devil May Cry or like Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 15, all that type of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see where you're going, where you're coming from with this.
And then switch between
Oh,
characters
right.
to like get different elements. So like if you're fighting a water monster and a ice monster, you have to switch between your fire and lightning characters to like make sure you have the right element to beat those monsters.
All right. I like that. Do you want the characters to swap armor or have the same look
So-
throughout the whole game?
We're on the same wavelengths because I also wanted to talk about clothing. I want this game to be kind of like the Minecraft thing where like we'll have like full on stores with like clothing, and every clothing item and every weapon will change how your character looks. Because I think it's hilarious because they didn't do that back in the day, because it's like then
Not
it's
at
just
all.
hard to recognize your character. You know what I mean? Because they're literally without their clothes, they just look like everyone else. But I think we could do it somehow, like maybe each character.
We'll be adding more detail to these polygons.
And I also think like because let's say the main character is fire, that's like what he's a master of. He'll have like a red feather or ribbon or something. Like they'll be wearing like a red somewhere on their thing. Or maybe we could make it where if you go shopping, they only see clothes with that color because they like that color. and so they'll only pick out those colors to try on. But everything
Yeah,
you could
that's like the style they want to
yeah,
go
so like
with.
if you go to a store and shop for this person or this person, it's going to be different clothing items for that person, that person, and we can make them like
Gotcha.
pretty unique to that character, where the clothing items are purely, I wouldn't say purely cosmetic. Like we'll have a little bit of RPG stuff. They'll give you a stat here or there, but they're mostly cosmetic, and they just change your character's clothes. And I think it's funny because you don't see that in a polygonal game.
Not at all. Not at all. We could go even further and change hairstyles a little bit. Would that be a step too far?
I mean, it wouldn't be a step too far, but I think the hairstyle in this kind of game art style, the hairstyle is one of their biggest uh defining features, unless maybe the main character isn't the hero or the prince. They're just the traveler. You know what I mean? And you could just change your main character's hair.
I see. Okay.
Which one do you want? Do you want the characters to all be unique with their own personalities, or do you want everyone around you to have multiple personalities and you're the silent protagonist that you just choose yes, no, and then maybe like 2 words to decide what to do?
I don't know what I like better. Maybe, I guess, having a built-in protagonist who you can like write in and stuff.
Yeah, I lean
That's
more
probably
towards
better.
that, just because then we could try to make people actually attracted to these weird diamond people if we made all of them like likable, personable, like individual characters, and each have their own personality, voice characteristics, and voice and everything. And we should get like the big name voice actors for this. We'll get like Nolan North, Laura Bailey's, and Troy Bakers to voice these characters. So like people will really be like, wow, this
serious,
voice acting
yeah.
is so good, but look at the graphics. I think
But there's going to be a shitload of stuff going on. Like, I imagine if they're around a campfire talking, you're going to see stars twinkling. You're going to hear animals. You're going to see blades of grass moving. You know, there's just, you can render so much because of the low graphical like nature.
Right. And I think maybe there could be a cool, like a little data book thing. Maybe one of your companions, he or she loves bugs for whatever reason. And so like you could look for bugs that are like a collectible around, and you just do it because you want to look at what we did to make that bug into a polygonal thing, you know?
And there's like roaches, beetles, ants, fireflies.
And it's just like a collection book that you could just, it's an optional collectible just so you could see these weird little bugs in like a weird like 2-3 polygon.
If you're playing in the morning, you can see polygonal dew on the polygonal grass.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of like, oh, I remember where that train of thought was going. So yeah, this whole story is going to have this polygonal look. It's like a really heartfelt story about this group of friends that have to go on this quest to fight off some evil wizard that has put a curse on the land, but no one remembers what that curse was. They just know that they're under this curse, right? And they go to defeat them. And after you get to the big boss and everything's going your way, or maybe not your way, you break through something during this encounter, and then the whole screen shatters, and it's in like full AAA, like actual real-time, real-life graphics, and it's like super like Square Enix, like Final Fantasy looking.
You can't have a We Are Not Game Devs game without a twist.
Yeah. That's the twist at the end, where when you break through, you see all your characters in full
Can we do it
glory.
like Kingdom Hearts though? Like when that happens, music starts playing.
Yeah.
Like the same catchy music that was in the beginning.
Maybe it's just, maybe at the end of the game, you beat the boss. You do the cool samurai one, whoosh, you know, like the dash and the one samurai kill.
You know, it'd be cool if you do that and then you slash through the screen and then end up.
And then the Frieza thing happens where the screen starts sliding and you're like, is something wrong with my TV? And then It breaks apart and it becomes beautiful and a whole cutscene happen. Like we'll do Kojima-esque 15-minute ending cutscene where you just sit there and
That's what I
watch
was
this.
thinking about as credits roll and it just wraps up everything in a beautiful like 4K.
Well, you know, at the end of Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, the three goddesses split and they go through every part of the world you've been to, and you see everything after the fact you began, and everyone's happy. You get to go see the Gruta Valley, and you get to see like your little Kokoriki village, and you could go see like it takes you all over. It could be like that, where at the end, while the credits roll, you see every single location you've been to and like main NPC characters you've talked to and what they really do look like, and you see them all happy and talking to each other, and it's just a full rendered cutscene at the very end, so you can see what everyone looks like.
Do you think this is gonna blow up some person's PC who was playing this because
Potato mode or something?
Yeah.
Or like someone on PC is like, why? I've seen the screenshots for this game. Why are the requirements so high? That makes no sense. There has to be something to this game. Because like I feel like the requirements are going to have to be pretty high.
Yeah, it's definitely like a Nandeo moment. Like as it's happening, like what?
Yeah, and it's like we're throwing a lot of games out there, but have you ever played Hatoful Boyfriend?
I have not. That's the pigeon.
Yeah,
game.
That's the pigeon dating sim. And there's a part in the very beginning of the game where it's like it breaks the fourth wall and be like, do you want to see what these pigeons actually look like, or like what they would look like to you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And it shows them as humans, like each of the bachelors that you could date as humans, and they only do that at the very beginning of the game, and then after that, they're all pigeons again. But it's just a funny. It's like kind of like that, where it just gets to show you what all these people you've been talking to and all these cities you've been visiting in full on real graphics. Sorry, Discord apparently is not silenced, and I gotta quiet that down.
Okay, I thought that was me.
No, that's me.
Okay, I'm digging all of this. We have characters, we have a big bad. We're going to be roaming lands. They're going to be luscious, full of animals, enemies, dens, bandits, weapon quests, secret ruins, power cell locations.
And you know me, and you know that I like Final Fantasy 15 has changed video games for me, where I like that road trip feel. Maybe this game has a day and night cycle where you adventure and you're exploring this linear world that we've built that's open linear. So you like they're big open, but they all point you in the same direction, and there's enemies and like people you could meet and talk to and side quests throughout this like thing where you could help people do like a fetch quest when you meet the traveler on the side of the road type of deal. Or you're in a village and you do like stupid errands for these villagers around the entire village. But what I'm guessing is how it's going to work as well is at the end of that night cycle, like at a certain time, the game kind of forces you to either set up camp, and then maybe if you're in a city, it will give you a choice. Hey, it's midnight. You have to go to bed. Like every day at midnight, the game like prompts up, hey, you have to set up camp, and then you just set up camp if you're out in the wild exploring. But if you're in the city, you could decide to pay 50 gold for an inn or just stay for free outside the city, camp again. But like if you pay the 50 gold, maybe you get a special cutscene and special interaction between your characters, or you get a cool you get like a boost, like a health boost or like a power boost or something like that. And that's just like because I love that Final Fantasy 15, you're going on a trip.
Yeah, taking it easy, engaging the world.
And I think it'll just bring more personability to these characters that otherwise it would be hard for a modern gamer who's never played the PS1, PS2 3D games and are used to this type of look. You know, like I feel like it's going to be hard for certain people to get into nowadays, and it'll help if we bring more personability to these type of characters.
I agree.
All right.
I like that when a game has you take it easy sometimes.
And I think this is going to be a pretty easy feeling game. It's not, there's a big dreading thing that's happening. I guess it's going to be this wizard or witch that I made up in like the 5 seconds I just thought of it. Just so I could get to that mind breaking, like you're going through and breaking this polygonal curse. But I imagine the game is kind of just more like you take it at your own pace. You could explore a world, you could go through these open environments and fight as much as you want. But if you just want to move on and skip all that, you can't just go move on and skip all that. And maybe to each section, I guess, would have to have like each section would be like different level requirements is the best word I could describe. Where like the beginning thing, you have to be like between 1 to 15 and then 15 to 30. And so if you get to the next point and you're under leveled, you'll either have to be really good at the combat, or I imagine grind it out a little bit, or do side quests, because there will be like side quests that you can pick up to like build up experience or whatever.
And mysteries and stuff.
Yeah. Collectibles
like
will
maybe
get
at
you
night
some.
following constellations.
Yeah.
Meteors that fall to the world.
Yeah,
checking
maybe
those
one
out.
of your companions is also fascinated with space, and then constellations and like falling stars are like another collectible that you could do, and also a source of experience. I'm taking a lot from Final Fantasy 15 now, and one of them, of course, has to be like your chef, and you could like either go collect ingredients and make like food for the camp that when every time you camp, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. The music, I mean, it has to be BitTune. Like
BitTune. I was thinking like, I think polygonal music had like classical music to it, didn't it?
I mean, if you
Do you
think
think it was
like
BitTune?
it depends on the game, you know. Like Final Fantasy, of course, had more of an orchestraic sound to it.
Yeah.
Whereas
Symphonic.
like Super Mario 64 was more of like a that was
band.
yeah, that
What
was
would you
more like
call
a
that?
live, not live band. I don't know how they did like what actually made the music, but it was like a band was playing the music, right?
Yeah.
So I guess we could go any direction. If you want it to be more of like a
I'm cool with the live band playing the music.
okay, then what's the feel? What's the genre? Is it going to be what if we go
What
like
if we
I was going
I
to
was thinking, wait, let's see. Are we gonna go back to our roots and do like some kind of like jazz
That's
punk
hilarious.
thing with the band?
I was going with like Persona 4, like jazzy, like pop.
I knew it. There it is. All right.
Jazzy pop, like put like harps and stuff in there to make it sound like it's more like high fantasy, you know?
So this game's just gonna shamelessly steal from everything,
Yeah.
but claim it's polygonal.
And that's the novelty of it. It's all polygonal, so it's a different game, but it's really all really modern games, just all jam packed into this oddly graphical choice that we did.
All right.
Pricing. How much are you willing to pay? I'd say because I feel like this is
If it's a full-fledged game
Yeah.
and it has all these enhancements, even though it's polygonal, I'd be willing to pay full price.
I think this is
$59.99.
I was gonna say $60 just because
Yep.
I feel like the work we're gonna put into it and like have all these micro mechanics happening, I think it's a full game and it has full voice act and all that stuff. So I think it's definitely worth the $60.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, Alex, it's time to start your timer. Because time to name this game.
All right, go. Polygonal prices. I don't know. Polygonal, poly hero,
Huh.
hero poly.
I found out why my computer keeps making sound. It should stop now.
An edgy world, a sharp world.
It's funny because the names that come up are like very close to the names of our last game. Because I was like, the Cursed Diamond. But the last game was literally called The Glass Curse.
The Glass Curse. So, we must come up with a new name. Adventures in Alvarvise.
Did you just come up with that, or did you
I just came up with that.
Are you sure?
I don't know. I don't know.
You look up Alvarvise, it's like a city in Skyrim.
It's just some kernel in my brain. My brain decided to cheat anyways. All right. Let's check it out. My Chrome didn't load the first time. You've given no suggestions.
I can't think of any.
Okay.
The Adventures in Pixelton.
All of a sudden, this game has to have tons of humor.
Yeah, like pixel puns and jokes.
Okay, so there's technically an Adventures in Alvarez, but I think it's like a Spanish word. I'm talking about Alvarez. Alvarez.
Those are all different places that you just named right there. Which one do you like the most? I like Alvarez. Adventures in Alvarez.
Yeah, so it's not a thing. I think Nope. Adventures in Alvarez.
We'll go Alvarvise. So 2 V's in there. Alvarvise.
Alvarvise. All right. That took a whopping 3 minutes.
It's not that bad.
Oh, all right. Without any introduction, The Adventures of Alvarez feature 4 characters locked together in destiny in a polygonal world. I almost sang Barbie World. I was going to do the tune. And he has a sword with magic that will unlock the realm for years to come. Practice playing in a wide, wide world where there are monsters abound, adventures to seek, and mysteries to solve. Adventures in Alvarvise.
All right. Now that we have a complete game, what? Oh, I skipped what you always skip. All right. So I think we have a game here, Alex. What do you think? And would this be a game you would want to play? And is it fun?
I do always skip that. Yeah, I think this would be fun. This game would be a curious one. It would be like kind of going back. It feels like this generation and the generations to come is going to be a lot of nostalgia.
Yeah.
And this game would be hitting just the spot. What about you, Jay?
I think I would really dig this game. It seems like the type of action adventure game that I really like, where it's just telling a story. You get to learn about these characters and then maybe do some side stuff while you're doing it, right? And that's perfectly up my alley. The only question that hits my mind is the same question you asked at the beginning of this podcast, which is just why? Why did you decide to do it like this?
Unless like someone can see that we really love the polygonal era, like it's a love letter to it, in a way.
I don't think it's even just
we
that.
could get away with
I just think it's an art style that hasn't been utilized that often and that well. And I think this will like bring maybe a resurgence of people doing something creative with that art style, because like I think we might have done something more creative where like. Sure, like there was big blockbuster games with this art style back in the day, but I don't think there's a big AAA game that like when we think AAA game today, we think like there's this epic story with these crazy cutscenes and voice lines and all that stuff, which that couldn't have been done back then. And I think bringing that art style into a modern game framework, I think it's just a cool combination.
I think so too, because that's when you get really cool, maybe intelligent AI creatures.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
All right. Now that we have a complete game, what game studio would you assign to make Adventures in Alvarvise the best?
Rare.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good choice. I want.
They have
continue.
They did very well during that era.
That's a good. Uh, um, that's a good connection to make between. Like I
Yeah.
was just thinking because of like Sea of Thieves and stuff like that, and Grounded and all that kind of have that. Not that look, but that feel. It has more of a nostalgic feel, and
Mhm.
Rare is very good at that feel to it.
Definitely.
But yeah, no,
Definitely.
they would do really good. I would give it to Yacht Club Games. Not what they're forte at, but they're good at making a nostalgic look feel modern. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I also had another one. Do you have any others that you could think of while I search these guys up?
I think this would be a great game for Nintendo to have.
Yeah.
I think if this were on the Switch and it were handheld and looked beautiful, even though we said next gen, I still think if they were to kind of get this art style and run with it, it would be really fun to see. Whereas like Nintendo's crack at a Sony RPG, you know,
Mhm.
like they take it super serious, but it's Nintendo still.
And they always also go with the weirdest art style possible,
Mm-hmm.
which they've done before with some of their games. Where we're just like, why did you choose to make it look this way?
That's what I'm saying.
I can't. There was another game studio that was at the tip of my tongue, but I just don't. I can't catch it right now. So we'll just leave it at that. And with that, our 129th IP has gone gold. We hope you look forward to this experience that will probably never release. You could write to apphoundgames@gmail.com if you have anything to patch into the game we created today. Also, give us feedback. We're still learning how to make this show better, and your feedback really helps. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to back our ideas, please head over to patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive episodes 2 days early and an extra podcast at the beginning, which you caught the tail end of our conversation at the beginning of this episode. That's patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. If you like our show, why not subscribe and give us all the stars on Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And if they ask for a review, instead of reviewing our show, become your inner game critic and review Adventures in Alvarvise, the video game we just created. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Friday with another new IP. Again, my name is Jay Yee.
And I'm AG.
Thank you, and please remember that we are not game devs. You're so proud of yourself. How long is this going to go on for?
I don't know. And it's funny that I'm so proud of myself when it's really like 2 years in. I don't even know what I'm going to discover in the years to come. It's going to be great.